it's happened again. The European champions of UEFA registration errors are at it, not for the first time, not even for the second time, for the third time in a decade. Basically, yesterday, a bit of a story emerged. Basically, it says that Midtjylland fielded an ineligible player against us in the Champions League. On this video, I'm going to explain what the exact situation is, who the player is, and what could happen next. Another big day for the channel today. We have got this very video, and then later on today we're going to be speaking to Joe Hart as well. We're also going to get a bit of an insight into the former Spurs and England and Man City goalkeeper. So you can look forward to that, splice it all together into one nice video for you. We also crossed 17,000 subscribers yesterday. Thank you. Huge thumbs up to anyone who has subbed over the last few days to get us over the line to 17k. And obviously anyone in general who is part of the 17k. No matter when you subbed, if you're watching this and not yet subbed, you know what to do. Now, what is the situation with Midtjylland fielding an ineligible player against Celtic? Well, it's kind of complicated. In fact, nah, it's not really. I'm just going to try and explain it to you in the best possible way I can. Now, basically, Midtjylland signed a player called Juninho from Brazil middle of last month, middle of July. Now, this player Juninho came with a fair bit of baggage. He had been involved in a pretty immense brawl after a match in Brazil earlier this year. Now, the teams were Bahia, where Juninho was playing on loan, and a team called Chiara. Now, there was a huge brawl after this match. You know what a brawl looks like. You've probably been down your local high street on a Saturday night. Basically, Juninho was one of the players who was cited after this. He allegedly kicked an opponent. He was given an 8-match ban. 5 other players were also given bans, totaling 46 games. So a total of 54 games were dished out to these 6 players. It must have been pretty intense, even by South American football standards. Now, Juninho used up 2 of these games while playing in Brazil. So he'd been banned for 2 games, still had 6 to run when he signed for Midtjylland. And for some reason, he's played 3 times for Midtjylland already without serving any further games of his ban. Now, I've seen it reported by press here that it's 2 games he's played in Denmark so far. Don't really understand why people are reporting that, because it is 3 games. You know, you have to just look on any score app you use, type in Juninho, and you'll see that he's played 3 games. He played against Aalborg, he played against Viborg, both in the Danish top flight, and most crucially, he played against Celtic. Now, not in Glasgow, he didn't feature in that game, but he played in the second leg in Denmark. And I should say, he played 112 minutes of that second leg, so not that it really matters when it comes to eligibility, but it wasn't as if he just came on for a 30-second cameo at the end. He was quite an important part of that match in terms of having played the vast majority of it well into extra time. So basically, yesterday, the news reached us all that Juninho wouldn't be featuring for Midtjylland in their clash against PSV, which they lost 3-0, no real surprise there. That was after FIFA had ruled that the ban for Juninho and the other players was worldwide. It wasn't just confined to Brazil. This ban was going to continue for whoever Juninho played on planet Earth. So what happens now? Well, I'm not going to insult your intelligence. I'm genuinely not, by suggesting that Juninho had some sort of huge say in the tie, and that if he hadn't have been playing, Celtic would have ran out 4-0 winners in Denmark. He didn't score. I don't actually remember him from the match at all, so he can't have had too much of an impact. Midtjylland would probably still have gone through had Juninho not been playing and had someone on the bench been playing in his place. Getting out there, I'm not saying that Celtic were cheated in any way. We weren't cheated at all. Now, what I would say though is that rules are rules, and Celtic have every right to be asking UEFA what the situation was here and why a player who is now banned for something that happened way before the tie against Celtic played against us. It seems like Midtjylland are going for the oldest trick in the book and they're going to plead ignorance on this one. But it seems unthinkable to me that they wouldn't be aware of the situation with Juninho when they signed him. That's just completely unthinkable. They would have known that he had this ban, and surely you would seek clarification, to use an old Celtic term, on this before playing him in any competitive match, never mind a Champions League qualifier, knowing what UEFA are like. If UEFA were to come down on our side, we would probably be given a 3-0 victory for the second leg. Now, given that the first leg was a 1-1 draw at Celtic Park, that would obviously see us through to the next round of the Champions League. But then the real complications come in because, as you know, PSV and Midtjylland have already played the first leg of their third qualifying round tie. We are getting ready to go into the Europa League to play Jablonec on Thursday night. So it seems like a bit of a mess and a bit of a tricky one to sort out. Now, I should say UEFA haven't really ducked and dived away from that in the past. They have always kind of gone big on rules seemingly been broken, even if they have to shift the things around a little bit, as we know from our own recent history, and we'll come on to that in a second. If we'd have beaten Midtjylland in that tie, we'd have been guaranteed Europa League group stage football. So I just wonder if a way out of it would be to put Celtic into the Europa League group stage. Yes, don't laugh at the back. Allow PSV into the next round. Allow Jablonec into the next round to play AZ Alkmaar in the Europa League. The only issue would be, what would you do with Midtjylland in that situation? If FIFA only made their final decision yesterday that this ban was to apply to worldwide football, then the easy way out for UEFA that would save them a whole lot of trouble seems to be just to say to Midtjylland, well, the ban for Juninho started from last night and it's got 6 games to run. Doesn't seem completely fair, that, given that Celtic played against Juninho and so did 2 clubs in Denmark. But it just seems like the easiest way out for UEFA, and that's kind of how I see this one playing out, if I'm honest. But who knows? As I say, UEFA don't tend to mess around with issues featuring ineligible players. We know this. In 2011, Sion were thrown out of the Europa League after they played 5 new signings against us. All 5 had been signed during a transfer embargo. That situation was as funny as it was crazy, and it brought about perhaps my favourite tweet ever on Twitter.com. Madrid, Sion arrive. Their official account actually tweeted that. Just everything about it. 3 words just say so much. I love it. I tweeted about that last night. 3 years later, 2014, it was the turn of Legia let football win. Warsaw, who were beaten by Celtic eventually, 4-4 on aggregate. We went through in away goals. Some night at Murrayfield that was, overturning a 4-1 win from the first leg. We were 6-1 down when Bartosz Berezynski, Celtic legend, came on for the final 4 minutes of that clash. He, interestingly enough, was meant to be serving a suspension for a red card he'd picked up the previous season for Legia in the Europa League. So there's maybe some comparisons can be drawn there between Juninho and Berezynski, given that both of them were suspensions. The only thing I would say is that Berezynski seems to be far more clear-cut and without the dubiety of, you know, playing in Brazil and wondering whether it's a worldwide offence or not. So I guess we'll find out pretty soon, probably in the next 24 hours, whether there genuinely is some legs to this story or whether it's just going to peter out.